guys, Fastidious here. Today I'm here to show you how to tear down a gaming PC. So this is not the best gaming PC that you can build just because it's built with the parts that we already had or got really good deals on. I have used Corsair's mid-tower gaming case called Spec 02, and I really like this case because it's got a see-through side panel and nice and spacious layout. And also the fact that you can open up almost all sides of the case pretty easily. So let's see what's inside the computer. I'm going to open it up by getting two screws out and then just sliding the panel up. So other than the graphics card and the processor, which are from the HP Pavilion computer from my previous videos, all other parts are new. So you can see the new power supply unit, also from Corsair, called CX650M. And we've also put in just ridiculous amount of cooling fans in the computer, not because it's necessary, but just because we had them laying around. So we will start out by taking out the RAM, and you can take it out by just pressing down on the plastic tabs on both ends, and it should just pop out. So there are 4 slots, but we're currently using only 1. If you have multiple RAMs, you can repeat the process for each RAM. So next, we will take out the graphics card. So I'm going to unplug the PCIe 6-pin power cable by pressing down the tab and pulling it out at the same time. I'm showing you a close-up, so press that down and then pull it out. And then I'm going to remove the thumb screws to loosen the slot cover, and then press down on a tab. Again, I'm showing you a close-up to show you which one to press down, and then gently pull out that graphics card without breaking anything. And once it's out, you can see that it's the same one from the HP computer. The next thing I'll be doing is removing the SSD or hard drive from the computer. First thing I'll be doing is unplugging the SATA cable, and I'm doing so by pressing down on the server tab and pulling it out. You can see the other end is still plugged into the SATA port on the motherboard, and you can easily see that from the same white cable that I'm using. Next, I'm unplugging the power cable, and now I can remove these 2 screws. I'm going to use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove these 2 so that I can easily slide out the SSD from the computer. So just so you know, in this case, there are 2 optical disk drive bays on the top. And then also there are 2 2.5-inch SSD mounts. So these are the tiny little SSDs. And then also on the bottom, there are 3 bays for the regular 3.5-inch hard drive. And all you have to do is just slide it in until it clicks into place. Next, I'm going to remove a couple of fans from this computer. And I want you to know that you do not need this many fans. My husband went a little bit crazy with the fans, and generally you would not see this many fans. And the first one that I'm going to remove is this one in the back. So I'm going to flip over the computer, and you will see that the 4 screws are holding up the fan. So I'm going to use Phillips head and get all of the screws out. And just remember to, hold up the fan before you remove the last screw so that it does not fall into the computer. So another thing I want you to know is that most fans have arrows showing which way the air flows, and I want you to pay attention to that. And now I'm just unplugging the fan cable from the motherboard, and that is how you would remove a fan from a computer. So in order to get the power supply out, I need to get this fan out of the way. So again, I'm going to flip over the computer, and now you're looking at the bottom of the computer. And I'm going to remove this mesh. Just get it out really easily, slide it out. And then I'm going to take the Phillips head size 1 screwdriver and remove the 4 screws that are holding the fan. And don't forget to hold up the fan with your finger while you're doing this. So I'm going to flip over the computer again in order to detach the fan from the motherboard. But unfortunately the cable is not quite accessible, so I'm going to work on getting the PSU out first. So first thing, I'm going to remove all the cables that are connected to the PSU by gently pulling them out. And now I'm going to remove the 24-pin ATX power cable from the motherboard, and I can just gently pull it out. And before you start on any computer project, be sure to turn off the power supply unit completely. But now, with how the cables are set up, it's very difficult to access them without opening the other side. So I'm going to show you how to open the side panel on this case by unscrewing the thumb screws on the top and the bottom, and the side panel should just slide out. So this is the other side of the computer. On the other side of the panel, right here, the PSU is there, and I just unplugged that 24-pin ATX power cable, so I'm going to get that out. But I was unable to get to the 8-pin one just yet. But remember that fan next to the PSU? I'm unplugging the fan cable right now, so I can slide that out completely. And while I'm here, I'm also going to unplug a couple more cables, like this fan cable. So I still need to remove some fans to get to things, so I'm going to show you how to take apart the front panel and the top panel of the case. So I'm unscrewing all the screws on one side of the computer, and then I'm going to flip over the computer to remove the rest on the other side. And don't forget that there are a couple more in the back side as well. Now I'm going to flip over the computer to remove the front panel, and it should slide right out. So now what you're looking at is the front of the computer. And you have to remove the input-output panel, or as I like to say, the power button panel, by removing the two screws on both sides. And now that it's loose, you can see that there are two more screws that you have to remove in order to get the top panel of the computer out. And now you should be able to just take off the top panel. And if it wasn't for the fans, I would not be taking apart the top panel. So I already have one of the fan cables removed, and I'm going to get the other one as well. And to remove these fans, you have to flip over the panel and then remove all these screws. But you guys already know how to do that, so I'm not going to do that again on this video. So the fan cables were plugged into the System Fan 1 slot, but you can plug it into any System Fan slots. And most motherboards should have the labels for all the slots, so it should be really easy to figure out where the fan cables go. And now I'm going to unplug the smaller power cable, the 8-pin one, by pinching the side and just pulling it out. And that should be the last of the power cables to unplug from the motherboard. And now I'm going to flip over the computer and remove the 4 screws that are holding up the PSU. And don't forget to hold up the PSU with your fingers while you're getting out the last screw. And then I'm going to flip over the computer again and just push to slide it out. Obviously get the cables out as well, and that is how you remove the PSU. And I'm using the Corsair CX650M. Now I can remove the other cables, like this fan cable splitter, and this cable came with the Noctua fans and not with the case. Now I can also remove the cables for these 2 fans. Yes, we have so many fans, and this is so not necessary, but I'm going to unplug them again and get it out of the way. And now I can also remove the SATA cable that was used for the hard drive. I'm going to remove that from the SATA port on the motherboard, and that's how you would remove the SATA cable. And now we can work on removing the network card. And first thing I'm going to do is getting this thumb screw out. And then I'm going to pull it out of the PCIe slot, which is this little slot right here on the motherboard. And now I can try to get the USB cable out by grabbing the ends and then just gently wiggling it out. And you have to use a little force, but make sure you don't use too much force to break the pins. And this is what the network card looks like. And the other end of this USB cable is plugged into the USB port on the motherboard, and you just gotta wiggle it to get it out. And this network card also comes with this antenna, which you can plug in using these two connectors from the back of the computer, which is then connected to the wireless card. So this is the input-output panel, which has the power and reset button, as well as USB and the audio input-output, which has lots of cables that are attached to it, as you can see. So I'm going to flip over the computer and show you that it's got a USB 3.0 port and the audio cable, which I'm going to unplug by wiggling it and using a little force to pull out. And that's how you would remove that. And now this cable. So this actually has a lot of cables, components, which has the power and reset switch as well as the LED stuff, and some other cases have individual strands, but I love that this is all bunched up into one giant cable. And now we can remove the USB 3.0 cable, and I dread this part because it's always given me trouble. So this is it. From this angle, I am going to wiggle it up and down to get it out, and that was actually really easy. But again, in the past I've always had issues with the USB 3.0 cables, and sometimes I would have to use the flathead screwdrivers to create a little gap so that I can wiggle it to pull it out. So I'm going to get that out, and now I can get all the cables out that are attached to the I/O panel. And I'm using cable ties to organize my cables. And these cable ties are really great for cable management, and you can see just how many cables there are. And I love also this case, which provides little spaces to tie your cables and kind of just hide them. And that's why I really enjoyed this case. So I'm getting all the cables out of all these little holes, and there it is. This is how you would remove the I/O panel. And now you just got the bare bone motherboard, the CPU cooler, and then if you flip it over, just on the other side of this lives your processor. I'm going to unplug the CPU fan. And I want you to know that without the CPU fan, your computer will not start. And the CPU fan slot has a different label than your system fan slot, so it should be easy to spot. Now I'm going to detach the CPU fans. Each manufacturer would have different ways to attach or detach the fans, but these Noctua fans have these 4 hooks that I have to unlatch by pulling it up with my fingernails in order to completely remove these fans. And now I can remove the heatsink. So I'm using the Cooler Master heatsink, and I'm just going to remove these 4 screws. And once you flip it over, you will see the gray stuff, which is the thermal paste. And you can wipe that off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. So this is where your processor lives. So this latch, you would have to press down and pull it out in order to open it, but different manufacturers would have different latches. So this is how you would remove the processor, but you can also remove the thermal paste beforehand, before you take it out as well. Last but not least, you can remove the motherboard by removing all the screws. So with this particular motherboard, they make it very obvious where the screws are. So once you remove all of them, you should just be able to pull it out of the case. And this is what the motherboard looks like out of the case. This is a Gigabyte GA H270 gaming motherboard. And you can also remove the input-output cover or the panel that came with the motherboard by just sliding it out. And now with all the parts out, this is what's left of the case. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope to see you next time.